Hello, all you beautiful people in Webtown. Welcome back to Jon del Arroz Appreciation Week here on Crypto Comics. Why do we appreciate Jon del Arroz? Because we can. And I have something very special to share with you today. It is a review of a brand new comic. I am talking brand spanking new. Just released today. It is the Flying Sparks Meta Man Special. You can go get it right now on Amazon.com if you choose. It is written by Jon del Arroz with art by Mike Abwan. Something that surprised me when I opened this comic is that it actually takes place in 1960 during the Kennedy-Nixon presidential race. And believe it or not, Richard Nixon is pivotal to the plot in this comic book. Meta Man, aka James Miller, is with his pregnant wife and other military members at Burbank Airport waiting for presidential candidate Richard Nixon to arrive. Suddenly, a report comes in that Nixon's plane has gone missing over the deserts, and only Meta Man can discover his whereabouts. Added to this pressure, Meta Man's wife has just gone into labor with their child. So Meta Man must make the decision either to stay with his wife or go find the presidential candidate. As his wife gives birth to their child, Meta Man takes to the skies, quickly discovering the whereabouts of Nixon's plane. As the plot is revealed, Meta Man must face a bevy of baddies, led by a fun retro villain known as Dr. Malicious. Just like with Jon's previous comics, this one is also family friendly, so you're able to give it to children of all ages and not have to worry about any suggestive content. While it's reasonably priced at only $4.99 for the print and digital package, I do have to admit that at 22 pages it was a little short. I wish this would have been 32 or even 48 pages because I enjoyed the world of Flying Sparks so much. I was a little confused as to why this story took place in 1960, as the original Flying Sparks Volume 1 is set in contemporary times. There is no real explanation for this within the pages of the comic, and to let you know, Meta Man's origin is not revealed in this comic book at all. With a higher page count, Jon would have been able to reveal this origin and discuss some of Meta Man's powers, as the only discernible power I've seen thus far is the power of flight. Additional pages would have also given Jon the opportunity to explore the villain more, which I would have enjoyed because I thought this villain was pretty fun. He just didn't get enough screen time, so to speak, for my liking. Also, an additional plot twist with the villain would have helped to make him a little more sinister and increase the threat a bit more. But all in all, the world that Jon is creating here is a lot of fun. I'm digging the world of Flying Sparks. I think that's why I wish there would have been more of it in this book. When someone says they're making a special, I expect it typically to be 32 pages or 48 pages or maybe even a 64-page giant to really delve into the characters and the world they exist in and to create a plot with lots of twists and turns. This was much more of a straightforward, regular issue of a comic book. But I can tell that Jon is creating a world for a lot of characters to inhabit, and so I'm going to stick with Flying Sparks because it's nice to see an original world that isn't relying solely on superpowers. And he's obviously creating a lot of depth here because he's going all the way back into the 1960s and fleshing this whole thing out. So I plan on sticking with the Flying Sparks universe because something unique is happening here, and I can tell just by reading Flying Sparks Volume 1 and this Meta Man special that Jon is trying to develop a broader world. I just think it's taking him a little bit of time to shift gears from being a novelist, which is what he's used to being a comic book writer, which is a new experience for him. As a novelist, you have the luxury of using as many pages as you want to tell your story and to craft your world, whereas a comic book writer has to really distill their creative juices down to fit it within the page count that's required. And that's a process that just takes time and experience to learn how to do. That's why I support a lot of smaller independent creators on Indiegogo, because I want to give them the opportunity to do that. And you typically find those books at a much more reasonable price, typically somewhere between $5 and $8. Because I know that with each new comic they're able to produce, their experience level increases, and that those opportunities give them the chance to really hone their talents, refine their skills, and eventually you'll see those people start to make bigger and bigger waves within the comic book industry. And Jon is one of those people. He has a lot of experience as a writer, and now being able to get in on the ground floor and see him honing his craft as a comic book writer is really, really cool. And as I said before, it really is a lot like distilling alcohol, where you take this big swath, this big vat of creative juice, and you have to distill it down into one little bottle that you sell that's just 22 pages long. It starts as something, in your mind you might have an idea that's, 48 pages or 60 pages, and you have to figure out how to boil that down into its essence and put that into the product that you sell on shelves or on Indiegogo. And these are the reasons why I recommend you pick up Jon's books, or really any independent creator's books, because you're giving them the chance to become the voices of tomorrow. And speaking of tomorrow, I have tentatively scheduled Jon del Arroz to do a live stream with me so I can ask him about his origin in the comic book industry, his origins as a writer in general. And hopefully we can all learn a little something, not just about Jon, but about how to make it as a writer, how to make a living off of your words. So, in the meantime and in between time, check out the Flying Sparks Metaman special on Amazon.com. If you haven't picked up Flying Sparks Volume 1, I suggest you do that too. If you're looking for something with a strong science fiction bend, check out Jon's adaptation of The Ember War into a graphic novel, all available on Amazon.com. And I will see you tomorrow, right here on Crypto Comics.